Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada, we love you. In Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful September the 6th, 2019. Grando Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, life as we officially know it in the U.S. is back. We got a full slate of college football going for the second week, starting tonight, and the NFL kicked off last night. Life is good.
Yeah, life is always good. I did think I was watching a hockey score. I thought it was going to be a little bit more exciting than that game last night. And you have quarterbacks making the kind of money that Aaron Rodgers, that's his first touchdown against Chicago, in a long time. But he looked okay last night. Just not impressed with what I saw. Maybe not enough preseason. People complain about too much preseason. Maybe not enough preseason, Big C. Baseball is still strong. We have Big C's Friday Night Lights coming up for high school football. And then I'm really looking forward to some big games in NFL and college football. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. I do want to just say I appreciate so much of what's happening in the sports universe. Today, Big C Sports is brought to you by Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa plays Big C Sports Podcast, and you'll see our platforms come up and hear from our sponsors. I do want to also, Big C, get right into this National Suicide Hotline. I know everybody's thinking about football, and people still liking on baseball. Basketball's around the corner. But this 800 number that people can call if they need someone to listen is simply 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or they can text 838-255. That's 838-255. Big C, I know that's important to you. Why is that so important to you, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, it is, Charlton. There's always people in need every day in America. And with all the distractions going on now in the world of sports, a lot of people are not being attentive to those who have mental crises and even just health issues.
Yeah.
So it's important to give need and help to those people all the time, Charlton. With the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, it is there to talk about things that may be bothering you or that you think might be bothering someone else. It's always there to lend a hand to those that are in need.
That's very true. So if you know anyone going through something, just pass along that number. Big C, I know Friday night football is really for a lot of seniors in high school. This will be the last year they play competitive football. We always like to bring you Big C's Friday Night Lights, just the top 10 teams in the country. Everybody has their opinion, but here are ours. Number 1, Mater Dei, Santa Ana, California, 2-time defending national champions. They are on the road at Centennial of Peoria, Arizona. Not in California, but Arizona. And that game is starting tonight. Also, number 2, St. Francis Academy, Baltimore, Maryland. They are at home versus American Collegiate Academy. Big C, they're from Clearwater, Florida. Is my GPS off, or are these teams traveling pretty far to get a game, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I have to go back to a point that you make about college football, about none of the players are getting money in college football. Who's getting the revenue from these high school teams traveling from state to state? Are any of the players being compensated? Are they getting anything for it? Or is this just the beginning of exploitation with these kids?
It starts early, Big C. Number 3, St. John Bosco, Bellflower, California. They're playing at Liberty High School in Henderson, Nevada. The top 3 teams in the country are not even playing games in their own states, Big C. Number 4 is St. John's, Washington, D.C. They're playing number 18 on the road, St. Joe's Prep out of Philadelphia. Again, you look at the top 4 teams, they're not playing in their own state. Number 5, IMG Academy, Bradenton, Florida. They're playing at number 15, Northwestern Miami. Big C, things are pretty bad when you got to play your home games in your state. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there's a travel, but, I would love to see more of these schools being regulated as far as competition, Charlton, to the lesser advantaged schools. When you think about that, they should only be able to play another preparatory school, not play a conference school, because when you think about the development of the young players, and they always want to talk about the health and safety of young athletes.
Always.
Think about the size disadvantage that so many of these young kids have to face against the superior athletes of these academy schools, Charlton. What is the health risk of those young players?
I think you said it before about the culling. You take the best, and you got these sacrificial lambs at times. You have South Oak Cliff out of Dallas, Texas. They're playing at number 6, Duncanville, Texas. Number 7, St. Thomas Aquinas out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They have a bye this week, but the next game would be September the 13th at South Plantation in Plantation, Florida. Number 8, St. Louis, Honolulu, Hawaii. They're playing Kamehameha out of Honolulu, Hawaii also. Number 9, Lakeland, Florida. They play George Jenkins of Lakeland, Florida. And the top 10 is Marietta, Georgia. They will play Collins Hill out of Suwanee, Georgia. I know Marietta, Georgia is not that far from Atlanta, and they're also staying in state. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, there's so much of a talent pool of players in the state of Georgia, Charlton. They don't put together those academy schools just because the school districts are some of the hottest in the country. When you look at the top 10 teams in the nation, Charlton, on the college polls, they all have recruits from the state of Georgia.
Yeah, that's true, Big C. So a lot of them, they just learn to play out-state, and then they'll come in state and play just to find out how they rank against other top teams around the country. I want to just jump into a few things today. Last night was the opening of the 100th NFL season, and it was an offensive slop fest. You would think guys making millions of dollars. You have high school teams that can go out and do double days. They're not getting paid any money. Not that we know of, Big C. Somebody's making some money flying around the country. But I was disappointed in this Bears and Packers thing. It seemed like the more we make a big deal about something before it happens, it kind of falls on its face, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't know if you're making a big deal of it. It's falling on its face. I mean, this is just what we've seen the NFL do in the past couple of years. When teams are not playing players during the preseason, you got to realize Aaron Rodgers did not take one snap during the preseason.
That's right.
Nor did Mitch Trubisky for the Chicago Bears. And that was the end product that you got last night in that opening game of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about laying an egg, dropping a thug, all of that happened last night in this game. I mean, it was an offensive lackluster event.
Yeah.
You think about the last 2 professional football games that we saw. We saw the Super Bowl. I believe that was a 16 or 13-3 affair
13-3.
in Atlanta last year.
Yeah.
And then we get the opening game of the season, which comes out to be a 10-3 affair.
I hope it's not a trend.
The lack of offense, and everybody can say, well, it was great defense.
No.
Defense played by both teams last night. Yes, it was. But when you have one of the top 2 paid quarterbacks in the NFL, and this is a guy that everybody says, well, this is the guy you want with the ball in his hands the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, he performed one series, Charlton, in the second quarter.
Yeah.
That was it. He was lackluster all night long. So as the preponderance keep talking about all these absorbent quarterback salaries that keep coming out every week now, the next 100 million man up.
Yep.
You know, you're not getting anything for your investment. When you look at all the auxiliary players around these quarterbacks that are producing and the quarterbacks are not producing, they keep blaming the teammates.
Yeah.
Yet Aaron Rodgers was lackluster last night. He was a pedestrian quarterback.
Yeah, he was. I think sometimes when you get so much money, you lose that motivation, that spark, whatever it is. I can't blame him. They got the money. The checks did not bounce, so if anyone gets that kind of money, you take it. Before we get heavy into football, I don't want to miss talking about Serena Williams. She'll try to win her 24th Grand Slam tomorrow at Flushing Meadows as she faces an opponent who is half her age. And you think about, never played in the U.S. Open or major finals before. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the young Canadian, Charlton, is right there on the cusp of doing something great. She's grown up idolizing Serena Williams, as every woman has on the tennis circuit.
Yeah.
But as you look at this match tomorrow, Serena is 0 for 4 in her last 4 finals.
Yeah.
Since giving birth to her daughter, Charlton, she has not been able to win a title since coming back on the tour. This is her best chance to win because she's facing an opponent, Charlton, that has no finals experience.
None.
And this is a thought that I've had on this. She's in 8 tournaments. She's reached the finals 4 times. since returning, and she looked real good physically. I've watched her play here in the Open.
Yeah.
But if Serena doesn't win this number 24 title of her career,
yeah,
what are going to be the chances down the road that she will be competitive continuously? I mean, we saw Tiger fall off the cliff real quick after winning 2 tournaments. He won the FedEx Cup, then turned around and won the Masters the following season, Charlton. But after that, he stopped being competitive.
Yeah.
How long can Serena Williams keep pushing it physically and stay on top of the heap? I mean, we love these great athletes that we've grown with and watched their careers spiral to the top and stay on the top.
Yeah.
But eventually there's a downhill side of a hill. I want to see Serena win, but if she doesn't win, what are the chances of her winning again?
Well, when you have children, sometimes your focus changes, even though your heart's still in the game, but things are not always the same. And I just want to see, no matter what happens, I want to see her get off to a good start. Big C, I want to get into this college football. I love college football. It's one of those things where allegedly is the last time people can play at a level and not get paid. I said allegedly, Big C. A lot of people getting paid tonight. Wake Forest 1-0. They're at Rice 0-1. William and Mary are at Virginia. So I guess are they bringing 2 teams, or is that one school? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I always thought about that years ago when I first heard about William and Mary, that you got to go out there and play twice as hard to beat this team.
Yeah, that's funny. I love that name, though. Marshall is 1-0. They are at number 24, Boise State, 1-0. And Boise State just come off of that real big come-from-behind win at Florida State. And then Boise State is favored by 12. If there's anything as an upset in the making, it would be this game, but I doubt it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, all the hype that's been given around the country to all the freshman quarterbacks that were starting, true freshman quarterbacks. Boise State had the most outstanding performance of any true freshman quarterback last week, Charlton. You think about a team coming from 18 points behind. This kid stepped up like he had been there before.
Yeah.
And he performed. He beat Florida State on the road in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Boise State has always found diamonds in the rough at quarterback. When you think about the history of that program going back to Chris Peterson.
Yeah.
Even Dan Hawkins prior to Chris Peterson, they've always found great quarterbacks, and they have another one in their midst right now.
Yeah, they're very good recruiting. It's such a small area, but they recruit Big C. Also, Sacramento State at Arizona State. Both teams are 1-0. I think Sacramento State scored 77 points last week in their first game, but Arizona State's a different breed of cat, and that's down in the desert. Remember, when Arizona State kicked off, it was last week against, Akron. It was 102 degrees at kickoff. Do you think that it's going to get any of a desert breeze coming through, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, they're going to need to be able to cool it down. I don't know if Sacramento State can hang all those points again in back-to-back weeks. If you think about it, you can't take points from your previous game to your next game. They might have wanted to hold some of those back to be able to opponent in Arizona State.
Yeah, they might have showed their whole hand in that first game, Big C. Here's a big game that a lot of people may want to pay attention to. Cincinnati, we saw what they did to UCLA in kind of I won't say a beatdown, but clearly I thought the Bruins would play better, but they were out physical. Now Cincinnati's on the road at Ohio. They're playing number 5 Ohio State, which is also 1-0. That's a noontime kickoff on artificial turf. And the Buckeyes are favored by 15, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is an in-state rival, Charlton, and this game is always tougher than what people think. You got a lot of kids from the state of Ohio who grew up playing against each other.
Yeah.
The ones that didn't go to Ohio State, a lot of those ended up at the University of Cincinnati. But when you think about Luke Finkel, the coach for Cincinnati, who had a marvelous season last year, 10-2 on the season with that team, Charlton, he was a former interim coach at Ohio State and player.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of emotion involved with Luke Finkel every time he goes back and faces his alma mater.
Yeah.
And you think he can't pass that emotion on to his players, Charlton? These guys are right. After the drubbing that they did last week to UCLA,
yep,
they are very confident. They have a very solid running game, and they're going to challenge Ohio State up front. They got some big boys in Cincinnati also.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Can Justin Fields duplicate the performance he had in his opening game at Ohio State, producing 5 touchdowns for the Buckeyes, Charlton? This is going to be a stern challenge for him.
Looking forward to that game. The Army is at number 7 Michigan. And both teams are 1-0. Army had a close win last week. It's a noontime kickoff on artificial turf. And Michigan's favored by 23 points. Big C, your thoughts?
Yeah, could Jim Harbaugh be on the hot seat already, Charlton? Army is one of those teams that just drives you crazy with that wishbone attack that they run. You can't always prepare for that in practice. When you get under the live bullets in a game, under the wishbone, Charlton, you got to have some discipline on defense. Shea Patterson is going to have to step up for Michigan at quarterback.
Going to have to step up, definitely, Big C. Another game, Rutgers. Rutgers had a great celebration last week beating UMass. Might be the only win in the month of September, Big C. They're at number 19. Iowa, a different breed of cat. Noontime kickoff, artificial turf. Iowa's favorite by 20 points, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Rutgers has been the doormat of the Big Ten, Charlton, for the past couple of years. Iowa, with Kurt France out there, has a very solid team. They will get physical against Rutgers.
Yeah, they'll get very physical. Another game that Vanderbilt's 0-1. They're at Purdue 0-1. SEC versus Big Ten, and that's on grass. Purdue's favored by 7. They were knocked off by Nevada with a 56-yard field goal with no time left. Another good game. Bowling Green 1-0 at Kansas State. I told you I don't think Les Miles is himself. I'm not even being flippant. Something is not the same. Doesn't have the same energy that he had when he was down there, coaching at LSU. So Bowling Green has a chance. It's an upset, I think. Artificial turf. Kansas State's favored by 3. I'm not saying Bowling Green's going to beat them, but they may come within 2 touchdowns. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Les Miles is at Kansas. Kansas State, that's Bill Snyder's old stomping ground.
Beg your pardon.
Kansas has a more physical team. Kansas State has a more physical team.
Yeah.
The Bobcats will handle this game, Charlton.
I think they will handle this game. And now, Northern Illinois 1-0 at number 15, Utah. The Pac-12 is different. You ever want someone to not be the champion of your conference? I think it would be Utah, one of the newest members, one of the smallest stadiums along with Washington State and Oregon State up there for Utah. It's an artificial turf. Utah's favored by 21.5 over Northern Illinois. Big C, your thoughts?
The Utes have an outstanding team, Charlton. They have some big physical defensive linemen.
They are.
And they got some guys that can get to the ball. They have a veteran quarterback. They will go out and handle this game and take care of business at home.
South Florida 0-1. Charlie Strong needs a win. They're at Georgia Tech, was beaten up last week by Clemson. That's an ACC, and it's on grass. Georgia Tech's favored by 6.5 after they were kind of punching bags by Clemson last week. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when I look at Barnett, the quarterback at Florida, Charleston, South Florida, he just has not had all the tools that he has needed to develop as a quarterback.
No.
When he left Alabama because he was disgruntled because of Jalen Hurts, he went out to Arizona State. He couldn't hang on to a job there. Charleston, he transferred down to South Florida, and he has not been the true leader of this program. I think his willingness to quit other programs has had him a lack of leadership down in Florida.
Yeah, it may have caught up to him. This is a big game coming up. Number 11, Texas A&M. They're 1-0. They're at number 1, Clemson, which is also 1-0. That game is going to be down in Death Valley. It was a 2-point win last year down at Kyle Field down in Texas, and Clemson got away. This game's a 3:30 kickoff. It's on grass, and Clemson's favored by equivalently 17.5. I think that might be too much, but maybe Vegas knows something that we don't know. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that's what you call a trap game when you think about this. This is a game that Texas A&M has an opportunity to go into Death Valley and knock off Clemson. You think about Trevor Lawrence, a highly touted sophomore quarterback at Clemson.
They're going to blitz him.
Last year, just under 400 passes, Charlton, that he attempted. He only threw 4 interceptions for the season.
Yeah.
In his opening game against Georgia Tech, he threw 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
He is not the sharp, crisp quarterback that everybody saw last year. But on the flip side, Kellen Mond is a true leader there at Texas A&M, a highly underrated quarterback. Last year, you think about that Bonnet defense that Clemson had. Kellen Mond ripped them for over 400 yards in the air, Charlton.
Yeah.
And if not for a late interception in the end zone that A&M was going for, trying to tie up the game with 42 seconds to go, they would have pushed Clemson into overtime.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a trap game. Number 25, Nebraska 1-0 at Colorado 1-0. That's a 3:30 kickoff on Fox. It's artificial turf, and Nebraska's favorite by 4 points in this one. They used to play in the same conference, the Big 8 back in the day. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they did. That was many moons ago, Charlton. But when you think about this is which conference needs it most. Does the Pac-12 needs it most, or does the Big 10 need it most? There was a lot of high hopes for Nebraska coming into this season. Martinez You know, they were expecting big things from him at quarterback. He sputtered in game one. Colorado got off to a good start. They're both 1-0.
Yep.
Well, the winner of this game, you know, both to the top of their conference as far as challenging for the conference title.
It's going to be a good game. They have a lot of tradition between those two teams. Also, when they were both in the Big Eight, they both won national championships, Big C. We have Grambling 0-1 at Louisiana Tech. They're also 0-1, and that's on artificial turf down in the South. New Mexico State, Big C, I know we talk about playing the big games, and we talked about A&M playing at Clemson. Listen to this game. New Mexico State, they're on 1. They're at number 2, Alabama, 1-0 to pick up a check. It's on grass surface. And Bama's only favored by 55.5, Big C. Your thoughts?
I guess that's the first half line in that game, Charlton. New Mexico State, this is a payday game. But, you know, I also think about Alabama every year.
Yeah.
Within their first 4 games, they always put in 2 cupcakes to get their momentum going. And they put in teams, Charlton, that they're always favored by 50 points or more.
Yeah, it's been working. Look at how St. Nick's ends up around the championship games of the game. It's doing the right things for Alabama. Going through the SEC, playing the toughest teams, I don't blame them for taking a couple of cupcakes. Number 17, this is an interesting game. Number 17, Central Florida, they're 1-0, and they're at Florida Atlanta, 0-1, which is, you know, knocked out by Ohio State last week. That's on grass. And Central Florida's favored by 10.5. It's interesting to me because Stanford comes in there also later this month. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Lane Kiffin's school, he's 0-1, Charlton, to start the season. Then you look on the other side, Josh Heupel, former quarterback at Oklahoma, down at Central Florida. You know, Central Florida has been the darling of college football the last 3 years. If not losing their quarterback last year, Mackenzie Milton, they had a legitimate right, Charlton, not to be in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
They were one of the best scoring teams in the country. And now that they have Brandon Winbush at quarterback, Charlton, they have a true leader, the Notre Dame transfer.
Yeah, he's a really good player. Big C, BYU 0-1. At one time, they won a national championship. I think they had Robbie Bosco as the quarterback at that time. And then Tennessee also 0-1. They have to be smarting from Georgia State coming in there, putting on a beat down. And now here comes BYU. That's a 7 o'clock game. Kickoff time. It's on grass. And Tennessee's favored by 4. I don't think they'll take BYU lightly this week, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, 2 once proud programs. You know, 2 teams that both won national championships when you think about it.
Yeah.
BYU is a team that has an aerial attack.
Yeah.
They can go after Tennessee. Tennessee is smarting after that loss to Georgia State at home. Jeremy Pruitt, the head coach, has a lot of concerns.
Yeah, he has a lot of concerns. Tulane 1-0 at number 13. Auburn 1-0. And Auburn won a game against Oregon. They stepped up in the second half. I think they had 15 unanswered points to come back and beat Oregon on that one. This game is on grass at Jordan-Hare. And Auburn's favored by 17. They may not start strong, but they'll finish strong. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Auburn will go out and just completely dominate Tulane. When you think about the confidence builder that they had, Bo Nix, a true freshman quarterback, able to come out and outplay a potential Heisman candidate at the start of the season in Justin Herbert. And Auburn's defense just took it to this offensive line that was supposed to be the best in the country.
Best in the country. Now, also, when you think about that, Nevada 1-0, that knocked off Big Ten power Purdue. I think Purdue was the only team in the Big Ten that beat Ohio State last year. And then they're playing at number 18, Oregon 0-1. We know they had lead until 9 seconds left against Auburn. This is at Austin Stadium, 7:30 kickoff on artificial turf. Oregon's favored by 24, and I don't know if they'll win by 24, but they might have Nevada still filling the victory over Purdue coming in there. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Oregon was favored over Auburn, I do believe, last week, Charlton. And Justin Herbert showed that the big game is too big for him.
Yeah.
Can he rebound at home against Nevada? Because if he doesn't, Oregon's season is all but lost.
Yeah, that would be a shame if he can't do that. Murray State 1-0 going at number 3. Georgia 1-0. That's a 4 o'clock kickoff on grass, so Georgia should have the beat down on that one. This is an interesting, just for the namesake, with Chip Kelly, 0-1 at UCLA, at the Rose Bowl, and they bring in San Diego State, which is about a 90-mile drive. And I wonder if the Rose Bowl will even get 50,000 people in a 90,000-seat stadium for this game. Big C, your thoughts?
I doubt, Charlton, that they'll exceed 45,000 in that game. But UCLA also has a great chance of going 0-2. San Diego State, you cannot sleep on them, Charlton. They have one of the best running backs in the country. Rocky Long does a great job defensively out there, Charlton. I wouldn't be surprised if UCLA comes out of this game 0-2.
That would be amazing. University of Tennessee Martin 1-0 at number 10, Florida. And Florida's 1-0. We saw the game against Miami, and so Florida should get that win. Penn State, Big C, I think they scored 1,000 points last week when they beat up on Idaho. But now they'll have Buffalo coming in at 1-0. Penn State moved to number 14, and they're 1-0. That's a 7:30 kickoff on grass. Penn State's favored by 29. Could you imagine if they win their first two games by a combined 100 points? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they very easily could do that. You hung 79 on Idaho. I guess they didn't bring any baked potatoes with them to the game, Charlton, and Penn State was a little disgruntled. But, with all that beef you have back there in Pennsylvania. But here it is, Buffalo. Yeah. Buffalo was a great team last year. I know they lost their starting quarterback, Jackson. He made the Bills roster.
Yeah.
But can they step up with the next man up, Charlton, and be competitive in Happy Valley?
Interesting to see that. Western Michigan 1-0 at number 20, Michigan State also 1-0. That game was on grass, and it's a 7:30 kickoff. Michigan State's favored by 16. This is an interesting game coming up, Big C. Miami, Florida, they're 0-1. We saw what happened in the game against Florida, and that was in Orlando. Matt Brown is 1-0, and he's looking at a Miami team that cannot go 0-2. This game is at home for Matt Brown. It's an ACC game. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff, and Miami's only favored by 3.5, but I know they have a lot more talent, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, they have talent, but they got talent in North Carolina also. I think what gives Miami the advantage in this game, North Carolina lost their starting quarterback last week, so they're going to be starting a true freshman in his first college game. The true freshman that Miami is starting gets his second nod, but Miami have to clean up all the mistakes that they had in game one against the University of Florida, Charlton. They were very sloppy in that loss.
Well, I look forward to that outcome. We have California, Berkeley 1-0 with a win over UC Davis, which is a level down, and there was about 2 touchdown lead at California. And now Cal's going up to number 12, Washington, which had a big win over the in-state rival. I believe it was Eastern Washington. So both teams are 1-0. It's a Pac-12 kickoff. Now, I want to make sure that the time is right, Big C. I know the commissioner wants to go at 9 a.m. kickoff. Well, this game is still a 10:30 kickoff East Coast time, so he didn't get 9 a.m. wake-up call that he wanted. But the Huskies are favored by 13, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is a game that the Huskies should easily dominate. When I saw Cal play last week against UC Davis, a division below them, and they struggled consistently. We saw what the quarterback did, Jacob Eason, up at Washington, Charlton. He dropped 6 touchdowns in the game. So I see Washington running away with this one.
Yeah, I got a couple of more games I want to throw at you. Number 23, Stanford, which is David Shaw always has a well-coached team. I don't know if their quarterback's going to come back for this game. He had kind of a concussion against Northwestern and a 17-7 win there at Stanford on the farm. But Stanford's on the road at Southern California. They're both 1-0. Southern Cal had a close win over Fresno State, but they lost their quarterback, JT Daniels. That's a 7:30 kickoff on the West Coast. It's on grass, Coliseum, and USC, with the quarterback making his first start, is favored by 1 over Stanford. That might be a trick-em game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you think about how Stanford has played USC, really, Charlton, over the last decade, they've actually dominated that program. Stanford has more victories in that head-to-head matchup.
Yeah.
And they've gotten more physical against USC. So they have their number.
Yeah.
I still like Stanford in this game, Charlton, just because those athletes don't like the city boys.
Yeah, that's true. Big C, Minnesota, Big Ten power at Fresno State. Minnesota's 1-0, Fresno State's 0-1. Saw the close loss at USC. That game's at Bulldog Stadium, 10:30 kickoff East Coast time, artificial turf. Minnesota's favored by 3. I think the Bulldogs might be upset territory because they have the confidence playing a physical team in Southern Cal. Your thoughts?
Well, they played Southern Cal, but you don't get emotional wins in college football now, Charlton. Everybody looks at the final result and it's either a win or a loss. Minnesota's traveling across country. The only thing that can hurt Minnesota in this game, Charlton, is kickoff time being a nighttime kickoff, and they're on that Eastern time clock. And heat in the valley may hurt them also.
Well, another kind of interesting game to look at. It's funny, but South Dakota, they're 0-1. They're division down. They're playing at number 4 Oklahoma. If they've seen the the tape on Hurts, I know Hurts might be looking at another 500-yard performance. Big for your thoughts.
Oh, Charlton, he'll easily get that. When you think about Hurts' performance, you got to look at head coach Lincoln Riley. He's the most innovative offensive mind in college football. He takes a guy that comes from a mediocre offensive scheme at Alabama, and he propels him to one of the top performances in week 1 in college football. When you think about what Hurts accomplished in his opening game, Charlton, against the University of Houston, passing for over 330 yards, rushing for over 150 yards.
Yeah.
Think about the last 2 Heisman Trophy winners that came from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And when you're thinking about Baker Mayfield and you're thinking about Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Neither one of those quarterbacks accomplished that feat in their Heisman runs at Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's very true. 2 more things I want to bring up college football. The first big matchup this season of African-American coaches in Power 5 conference. You have Dino Favors, Syracuse, and then Mike Locksley at Maryland. And I just want to get your thoughts on what that may mean, Big C, your thoughts.
Well, you're thinking about these 2 conferences, the ACC and the Big Ten. Mike Locksley in his first year at the University of Maryland, in his first game, Charlton, he was able to hang over 70 points on the scoreboard.
Wow.
Dino Favors there at Syracuse. He challenged Clemson last year, had them on the ropes, if not for a last-minute drive for Clemson to pull out that victory.
Yeah.
He has changed around the orange mentality up there, Charlton. But what I like about this is that you have 2 African-American coaches coaching in the Power 5 conferences, Charlton, meeting up undefeated head-to-head to see which team is going to be better.
Yeah, so the final game I want to get on before I introduce a couple of SWAC and MEAC games, if you think about this, and it really goes into which programs out of Texas are going to be more dominant. The state of Texas has 2 of the biggest college games this weekend, University of Texas versus LSU, and then Texas A&M at Clemson. And I think the A&M at Clemson is a trap game. There's no way they should be that much of an underdog. I think it's 17.5. But when you look at the big game, LSU, number 6 in the country, 1-0, at number 9, Texas, 1-0. And that's a 7:30 kickoff ABC. It's artificial turf. LSU's favored by 6 in Texas. They obviously have not heard about the Texas officiating. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I look at what LSU is coming with. When you think about 2 great teams in the SEC, when you look at Alabama and you look at LSU.
Yeah.
Alabama last year scored 52 touchdowns, Charlton, passing the football.
Wow.
You would have never thought that would have come from a Nick Saban team. You look at Joe Burrow last week for LSU. Opening game of the season, he throws 5 touchdown passes. LSU throws 6 touchdown passes in total.
Yeah.
5 years ago, that would have been the entire season for LSU in throwing touchdown passes.
Yep.
LSU has added a passing attack to this great offensive line that they've always had. They've opened up the offense. They only ran 2 plays last week, Charlton, under center. One was a goal line play, and another was a quarterback sneak. They play in the shotgun, so they spread the ball around. And with all those tremendous athletes they have, and you think about Texas, Sam Ehlinger is going to be facing some defensive backs that are going to be playing in the NFL as well as some linebackers.
Yeah.
That's the history of LSU. Texas is at home. They got great home cooking. They changed the landscape of the program. They moved up, Charlton. They think they got things turned around. But if they don't beat LSU at home, Charlton, what does that leave the state of Texas football?
Yeah, it's amazing. You have 2 of the biggest programs in Texas, and they're both an underdog, over 100,000 in the stadium. SWAC football scheduled this weekend, Southern University at Memphis. Tuskegee's playing at Alabama State. Arkansas Pine Bluff at Alabama A&M. You have Grambling State at Louisiana Tech. Mississippi Valley State at Lamar. And then you have Texas Southern at Incarnate Word. And also, when you think about all the talent that comes out of that conference, it's just amazing. In the MEAC, the schedule for the MEAC is Howard at Youngstown State, North Carolina Central at Townsend, North Carolina A&T, they're playing at Duke. Duke is still smarting from the beatdown against Alabama. Lane is playing at South Carolina State. Virginia State's playing at Norfolk State. And then you have Coastal is playing Norfolk State, also Big C, coming up in a different program. So I just want to say congratulations to all the great programs. We're going to come back and talk about a lot of things in the world of NFL. I know we had kind of a dud of a game last night. but it's still NFL football, and a lot of people still love it. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, and when we come back, we're going to get Big C's thoughts on Week 1 of the NFL. All right, we are back from the Big C pause. This is the Big C Sports Show, and really appreciate how things are going with Big C Sports. I'm excited about football. I love the game of college football. I love high school football, Big C. Also, when you talk about NFL football, it's exciting. And I know last night's game, before we get into this schedule for this game, I just want to get your thoughts again. We talked about it earlier, but you have guys like Aaron Rodgers, who's really considered the major quarterback in the NFL, the guy that people say they want to have him with the ball in the last 2 minutes of the game. But last night, they just did not impress me at all. I know Trubisky looked like he was way in over his head again, Big C. But give me your feeling. Were you excited about the game last night? Your thoughts?
Well, I was excited about the opportunity of the NFL kicking off.
Yeah.
But the end product of what I saw on the field was very lackluster and mediocre. But that's also a product, Charlton, of those quarterbacks not getting reps, and even the starters not getting reps during the preseason.
Yeah.
Well, when this is the first major competition that you have is in the opening game of the season, you're going to be rusty. And we saw a lot of rust last night. The offensive linemen, the timing was off with them as far as pickups.
Yeah.
The quarterbacks didn't have sync with the receivers. Everybody had a tough night. But when you don't take a snap for 4 weeks, Charlton, during the preseason by either starting quarterback, I don't know what's to be expected. You know, at some point the NFL may want to think, hey, if the players are not going to play, maybe we have to give a discount back to the fans.
Yeah.
But the defenses show up. The defense play defense at times, and it is offense.
Yeah.
And the Chicago Bears, once again, their defense dominated the Green Bay Packers' offensive line.
Yeah.
If not for one series by Aaron Rodgers, I mean, we may have ended up in a 3-3 tie.
What a game that would have been. That would have been horrible. I want to say you can follow Big C Sports, brought to you by Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. Weekend preview for Big C Sports NFL football. Washington at Philadelphia. That game is Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. The Eagles are favored by 10. That doesn't make any sense, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you're looking at overall what they have. Washington, has some uncertainty with their offensive line. Trent Williams is still holding out, so that may bring some extra pressure on the quarterback. Carson Wentz, he's healthy.
Yeah.
We'll see how well he performs. He did not have a great game, opening game of last season in the opening game of the season against the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
Will he be healthy now that he knows that Nick Foles is not looking over his shoulder? And in Washington, Case Keenum is going to get the starting quarterback.
Yeah. Who
will he throw to, though? That Washington's had a problem this year with their wide receivers.
Very good point. Buffalo at the New York Jets. This is an all-New York affair, Big C. Sunday, 1 o'clock pickoff. And the Jets are favored by 2. It's been a long time since they've been favored by 2, but they are playing Buffalo. And this is a chance for the Jets to kind of fly high, Big C, if that makes any sense. Your thoughts?
Well, normally JETS just means the end of the season soon. That's what it stood for in the past. They got Le'Veon Bell to help Donald at quarterback, Charlton. What type of workload will he get? We did not see him at all during the preseason, just like with Trubisky and Rodgers.
Yeah.
I look at the winner of this game, Charlton, being the second-best team in the Eastern Division. We know that New England's going to win the division.
Yeah.
But which one will be the best team in New York? And the best team in New York will end up second in the AFC East.
Well, another game that really grabs my attention, and again, it's all fair and love and war, and when you have prop betting and other things too, you wonder. Atlanta, they are playing at Minnesota, Sunday, 1 o'clock kickoff, and this game has the Vikings, for some reason, they're favored by 4 points. And I know when you have Ryan or when you have Cousins, I would still trust Ryan over Cousins, but the Dome is very difficult to win in. Big C, your thoughts on Minnesota?
Well, the Minnesota Vikings have a tremendous defense. Atlanta fouled all preseason long. Julio Jones did not play. The offensive line had a hard time protecting the quarterbacks. You think about that front four of the Minnesota Vikings, Charlton, they can get after a quarterback led by Everson Griffin. They're pretty good on the back end also.
Yep.
The Minnesota Vikings, their weak spot was your cousin at quarterback last year, but they got two outstanding receivers in Diggs and Thielen.
Yeah.
Atlanta has three outstanding receivers in Jones and Sanu and Ridley, but there was also some speculation Julio Jones may not play because he's holding, he has been holding out for a new back.
Yeah.
We'll see if all fences are mended, and he performs in this game.
Well, he should play in that game just for the sake of, you get on the road, you start off 1-0, you got a chance, especially in the NFC South, and they're going out of the division. He should play. Baltimore at Miami. People look at this as an easy win. It's Sunday, 1 o'clock kickoff, and the Ravens are favored by 6.5. And I know the Dolphins had a lot of new and young people, and the Ravens, remember, they were in the playoffs last year. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Brian Flores gets his first bite at the apple as the new head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Lamar Jackson now opens up the season as a starting quarterback in Baltimore. They've given him some new tools to work with. They got Mark Ingram, a veteran running back, to help stabilize that offense. The offensive line is solid, Charlton.
Yep.
The receiving core has been upgraded. What can the Dolphins do offensively or defensively? You're starting Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback in Miami. The defense, they cut some of the best players that they had and traded them, Charlton. So Miami's in a total rebuilding. And it's hard to think about rebuilding in pro football, but
that's right.
I give a solid edge to Baltimore in this game.
Yeah, they just maybe have a lot more in the quarterback department, of course. Kansas City at Jacksonville. I'm not overlooking Jacksonville too much this year. This is a team that was outside of the officiating crew up at Gillette Stadium when they had a 10-point lead going into the AFC Championship game. That was many moons ago, of course. But Kansas City and everybody's favorite, Patrick Mahomes, is a Sunday 1 o'clock Eastern time kickoff, and the Chiefs are favored by 3. They've had some signings of some players that had some off-the-field issues. I guess they want to put that behind them now. Patrick Mahomes going up against the defense in Jacksonville. It's 3.5. It seems like it could be low on the point total because Mahomes' ability. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that's pretty accurate, Charlton, on where they are. Jacksonville is upgraded at quarterback with Nick Foles. You think about that defense in Jacksonville, Charlton. You got some guys who will get after you on that defense. They got Allen, their number 1 draft pick at end. You got Calais Campbell, one of the most dominant defensive linemen in all of the NFL. They got a great linebacking core led by Jack. And you think about the Chiefs. They didn't play a solid preseason, Charlton, but you also got to go back to last year. This is the only team in the NFL last year that the Chiefs played that Patrick Mahomes did not throw a touchdown pass.
That's right, yeah.
So they have him pretty well figured out there in Jacksonville. Can he get off the snide and put a couple in the end zone? Because if he doesn't, it's going to be a slugfest, and I wouldn't count Jacksonville out of this one.
Well, that'll be an interesting game to see. Tennessee at Cleveland. Cleveland's been the much-hyped ballyhooed team with Baker Mayfield. And also, you have Odell Beckham Jr. This game is Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and the Browns are favored by 5. They're at home. It should really be a madhouse, or would that be a doghouse in Cleveland? See your thoughts.
Well, my feelings on this game, the only way that Cleveland can win this game is that they pound the rock. They have to keep the ball on the ground.
Yeah.
You got Odell Beckham coming into this game to play, and he hasn't played all preseason either, Dalton. So he's going to be a distraction in the offensive scheme of things.
Yeah.
You look at the Titans. The Titans have a solid running game with Henry. Can Mariota stay healthy? They're going to be without their starting left offensive tackle. Can Myles Garrett get pressure on Marcus Mariota in this game?
Yeah, he's going to have to do that. Here's an interesting game because when you look at the LA Rams, they move into their new $2 billion stadium next year. So this is the last year at the LA Coliseum, Big C. And it's a Sunday, 1 o'clock kickoff Eastern Time. And the Rams are favored by 2 on the road against Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers. And those two teams have been to Super Bowls in the last 4 years. And Jared Goff just got all that money. And I'm sure he needs to hit up with Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp and then Robert Woods. But the key will be how will they run Hurley, because they're going to have to run the ball to beat Carolina. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Carolina's hurting coming into this game. Cam Newton is still not 100% healthy. He had the shoulder surgery in the offseason.
Yep.
He sprung the ankle in the preseason, Charlton. So he's going to play in this game, but he's only going to play in this game at about 85%.
Yeah.
I look at what the Rams have defensively with Wade Phillips on that side of the ball, the Defensive Player of the Year, and Aaron Donald at defensive tackle. Jared Goff has gotten better each of the last 3 years in the NFL. If you look at his numbers, they've gone consistently up. They've kept that offense intact. So they are going to go out and dominate the Carolina Panthers.
That would be an interesting thing to see, going across the country and dominating an early kickoff for West Coast teams. Cincinnati at Seattle. Pete Carroll, one of the oldest coaches, I believe, in the NFL roster. This man's been doing it for a long time. He played his college football at UOP down in Stockton. And you look at this game, it's a 4:05 kickoff Eastern time. The Seahawks are favored by 9. And the key, I think, is can the Bengals really go in there and count on quarterback Andy Dalton to handle the noise that they make up in Seattle? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this is the Cincinnati Bengals moving on from Marvin Lewis. And we will find out if Marvin Lewis was the problem with the Cincinnati Bengals or is it just the organization. They have the new young coach, Charlton, that they picked off the Rams staff to take over at the helm to be a new quarterback whisperer.
Yeah.
But I see Russell Wilson with that new contract that he's gotten, Charlton being one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL now. Seattle is really upgraded on the defensive line. They got 2 outstanding defensive ends in Clark and Clowney. They're going to put a lot of pressure on Dalton. And with A.J. Green being out, Charlton, will Cincinnati have enough offensively?
Well, think about having enough offense. We go up to Indianapolis, and they're going out to the West Coast to play at the L.A. Chargers in front of about 30,000 people, Big Z. It's a 4:05 Eastern Time kickoff. The Chargers are favored by 6. We know they're still having the issues with Gordon, and will they need him? We don't know. This might be that last window of opportunity for the Chargers to get to a Super Bowl, especially with the leadership they have now. So I want to get your thoughts on quarterback Jacoby Brissett. Will he be in over his head? And a smaller crowd, maybe not. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I like Jacoby Brissett in this game. You got to look at all of what Indianapolis did last year, Charlton. They really upgraded their defense. They had defensive rookie of the year and Leonard at linebacker.
Yeah.
They have 2 tremendous young defensive linemen that can get the pressure on the quarterback. You saw what they did with their offensive line through the draft, Charlton. They put in a couple all-pro rookies last year, and they really played well. The running game developed. T.Y. Hilton is one of the top wideouts in the AFC. Eric Ebron led all tight ends in touchdown receptions.
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett can play football in the NFL. When you look at the Chargers, they're without Gordon in the backfield. Oku is missing and left off as a tackle. We know that Phillip Rivers lacks mobility. And so they have to lean heavily on their defense. I don't know if San Diego's going to have enough offensive weapons to keep Indianapolis at bay.
Well, that will be a great game to see. In fact, all 30,000 people can see from Carson, California. This is a big game because so much money is on the line and reputation. You have Tampa Bay with Jameis Winston, and a lot of people just don't like him. He doesn't like to play for his crap cakes or whatever it is, Big C. And then you have Garoppolo out of San Francisco, the prodigal son they want him to be anyway, for the 49ers. But listen to this. It's a Sunday kickoff at 4:25. I'm hearing the humidity, the temperature is going to be in the 90s, and the humidity might be around the 80s. California teams don't do well when they get soaking wet, especially in the sunshine, Big C. Tampa's favored by only 1 point, though. That kind of concerns me if you're a Tampa guy. It all starts with quarterback Garoppolo. Is he the great white hype? Or will he find a way to get a win down in the heat and humidity of Florida, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, if you're looking at Jimmy as a person, he's a good-looking man as far as he's judged. But as far as production on the football field, Charlton, he hasn't had that the last 2 years. This is a guy that's coming off of major reconstruction of the knee.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks are always leery when they do that. San Francisco, he doesn't have the timing with the players that were productive last year when you think about Kittle at tight end being all-pro. He has some excellent young running backs and wideouts. But he wasn't the guy developing those players. Jameis Winston, he knows this will make or break for him. He's watched all these quarterbacks get these $100 million contracts and get the franchise label.
Yeah.
He's playing on the last year of his rookie contract, Charlton, without being picked up a new contract. So he is playing for his life in the NFL. Will he be a franchise quarterback or just a backup quarterback the rest of his career? I see Tampa Bay prevailing in this because Jameis Winston is out to prove himself as a bona fide superstar in the NFL this year.
Plus, you come from the cool breeze, Pacific Ocean, down to the heat and humidity of South Florida. It might be tough for the 49ers to not get the cramps in the leg that happens to a lot of teams that go down south. Here's a big game from the East, Big C. You have the New York Giants. I guess you could say they're the prodigal team of the NFL. But how about them Cowboys? America's favorite team. That's a Sunday kickoff, 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time. The Cowboys are favored by 7.5. They've gotten some of the junk behind them because Jerry Jones, he signed the check, which is what oftentimes a billionaire will do. He got Ezekiel Elliott to get into the huddle before a kickoff, and that's going to at least boost the morale of the Cowboys. Eli Manning, will we find out in the first 3 weeks if the Giants will say, you know what, Eli, we love you, but we appreciate what you did in the past. We'll find out what happens in this game. Big C, what is your thoughts on the outcome of this game with Ezekiel being back now? Your thoughts?
Well, when I look at these two teams, Charlton, this is about rivalry. When you think about how heated the Giants and the Cowboys are, it's like the Cowboys and the Redskins. These two teams have a genuine disdain for each other.
Yeah.
Eli is going to ride it out all year long as the starting quarterback with the New York Giants, barring injury. That's the only way that Eli is going to get replaced.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott is playing for his future also, Charlton. He's on the last year of his rookie contract. He is trying to prove to the Dallas Cowboys and the NFL that he is worthy of being that franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
That he can outplay all the rest of the quarterbacks in each division. And he needs to get off to a good start. I don't know how effective Ezekiel will be because the timing won't be there in running with the offense, Charlton, throughout the preseason.
Yep.
But they're going to have to lean heavily on Dak Prescott if they expect to win.
Well, I agree with that, and I just look forward to it because no matter who wins that game, it's still, that's football. When you have the Giants and the Cowboys, I know people talk about Green Bay and Chicago, but this, I mean, anything with Dallas and the Giants is always big. A game down in the desert where the number one draft pick will show up in Kyler Murray, playing in the Dome. Detroit comes to town, so you have two Dome teams. It's a 4:25 p.m. kickoff Eastern time, and the Lions are favored by 2.5 to go on the road into Arizona and win a game against the NFL's number one rookie quarterback. We'll see what happens there, but give me your feeling, because I'm not impressed with Detroit no matter what they do over the last couple of years since they got rid of Caldwell. They have not been a threat. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Matt Patricia has to worry about he's coaching for his life in the NFL, Charlton,
Yeah.
and everything is hanging on Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford, will he go down as just being a serviceable quarterback in his NFL career, a quarterback that has never won anything? I don't have high expectations down in Arizona, Charlton. Everyone's talking about Kyler Murray, but their defense is like holding up a piece of paper in front of a semi-truck and expecting for it not to come through.
Yeah.
So this young quarterback is going to run for his life, even against Detroit, Charlton, because his offensive line is very weak. The defense hasn't stopped anybody all preseason long. I like Detroit in this game.
It's interesting to see this young kid against this franchise, and Stafford coming in $100+ million contract. If he gets beaten by a rookie quarterback, it would be like the Auburn-Oregon game, Big C, hype versus the guy that won. This is a big game coming up. Pittsburgh at New England is Sunday night. It's an 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff. The Patriots are favored by 5. And you think about the Steelers, can they enjoy this drama-free environment, allegedly, by running back James Conner and wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster? They don't have Antonio Brown anymore. So Big Ben, whether they talk about Antonio Brown or not being the issue, I still look at Big Ben. In his last 2 playoff games, the last 2 seasons, he has 8 combined interceptions. He can't do that at New England, Big C. And is Tom Brady too old? Finally, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you're not too old until you're not playing anymore. Ben Roethlisberger's up there in age also when you think about that. But this is both teams in transition. You think about New England's offense, they lost Gronkowski.
Yeah.
We don't know what they're going to have at wide receiver. They've lost their key center, David Andrews. He's out for the season. And even in Pittsburgh, Charlton, with Antonio Brown, Pittsburgh signs wide receivers.
Yeah.
They had a new running back they had to develop last year, James Conner. This game will come down to the defense. Pittsburgh is upgraded defensively. They got Devin Bush at linebacker, and he stepped in and played like a veteran throughout the preseason.
Yeah.
But the veteran Tom Brady, how he's able to exploit things offensively, Charlton, I still like New England at home because it's just hard to beat the champs at home.
Yeah, especially with all the stuff that Bob Kraft has been through, and people act like it never happened. Maybe they're just focused and they're at home, but if they knock them off, it would be the Steelers, Big C. I got 2 more games for you. In Houston at New Orleans, this could be an outside chance at a Super Bowl. You have Monday Night Football, 7:10 p.m. kickoff Eastern Time. The Saints are favored by 7. I know they want to get that stink of what happened with the Rams down there in that no call. That was definitely a pass interference. The Saints favored by 7, but quarterback Deshaun Watson, he has a lot of vertical weapons. DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, and Kiki Contu. I think the Saints are good. Jared Cook, tight end. Michael Thomas got that great contract. Alvin Kamara. I want to get your thoughts on who has the better advantage in this game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I look at the Saints far an advantage because they get rid of the ball real quickly. Houston has problems with their offensive line. They're trying to move Larry Tunsil in and get him in sync with the rest of the offensive linemen. They lost their top running back, Lamar Miller, in the preseason. I don't know if they have anybody that can carry the mail like Miller did.
Yeah.
So that's going to hurt them offensively. Is going to be lack of running game. Deshaun Watson was sacked more than any quarterback in the NFL last year.
Yeah.
New Orleans will come after him. But the quick strike of this New Orleans offense, Drew Brees hasn't showed any sign of dropping off. Last year, the first 10 games of the season, he was on a record-setting pace, completing 74% of his passes.
Yeah.
Michael Thomas is unstoppable. The defense in Houston will be without Jadeveon Clowney now.
Yep.
So they got to find another defensive end to complement J.J. Watt.
Yeah,
I like New Orleans in this game. I love Houston, but I like New Orleans to win the game.
Yeah, I tell you, and Clowney being in Seattle might help with that defense that Pete Carroll has. Here's the game of the night. It's amazing that a team that's been at the abyss of the NFL can get most of the headlines, but not because of what happened on the field, it's off the field. You have this great rivalry, Big C. You have the Oakland Raiders. They're at home versus Denver. Will the Coliseum, embarrassingly in their last year, will they have the tarp on the top of the stadium? I take the thing off and give some 10,000 seats to kids, Big C. At the Coliseum, the people in Oakland deserve it. Just let some people in for free since you're going away anyway. I want to get your feeling. Broncos favored by 2. You know, John Gruden has been the quarterback and the coach whisperer, allegedly, Big C. But there's been so much dysfunction. Elway's not any better over in Denver since Manning left, Peyton Manning left, Big C. But this is a team in Denver that has an easy time winning at Oakland, especially with dysfunction. If Antonio Brown comes out and has a great game, even wins the game, does that get Gruden off the hook, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there's just dysfunction in Oakland, period.
Yeah.
You know, Antonio Brown hasn't been on the same page with Derek Carr all off season.
No.
Will Derek Carr spend too much time trying to get him incorporated into the offense? We don't know what the offensive line from the Raiders is going to do. It's a revamped offensive line. They got Josh Jacobs, the rookie running back.
Yep.
Will he be able to play against NFL starters? You got to look at Denver's defense. They have one of the best end combinations in the game when you think about Miller and Chubb coming off the corners, Charlton. They're going to put a lot of pressure on Carr. Does Joe Flacco have anything left in the tank? I mean, Emmanuel Sanders is coming back at receivers after the Achilles injury. We'll find out if he has any of that quick game, Charlton. We think about Lindsey, who was Rookie of the Year, running back, free agent out of the University of Colorado.
Yeah.
Can he take the next step as a running back in the NFL? Denver had to rebuild their offensive line also. So it's going to come down between quarterback play. Can Joe Flacco muster anything that he had 5 years ago and help Denver to a victory?
And will the crowd show up in Oakland? You know, when somebody's leaving you, you normally don't give them a party. you normally don't show up, Big C. So that'll be interesting to see when the Raiders crowd show up. And if they'll take the tarp off of that, what's called Mount Bis, just for the final year in Oakland, we'll see what happens. You can follow Big C Sports Monday through Friday on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can also follow Big C Sports on Xfinity Comcast Television, and we really appreciate all of our sponsors for their support. Big C, I just want to close out on the Big C Short on Happy Friday, and it's a beautiful day for baseball, even though baseball is taking a back seat. We have St. Louis at Pittsburgh, Texas at Baltimore, the New York Yankees at Boston. That's a big East Coast rivalry there. Philadelphia at New York. Toronto's at Tampa. Arizona's at Cincinnati. You have Kansas City at Miami, and a team that I still like a lot, Washington, is playing at Atlanta. I think Atlanta's very strong, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Atlanta is, Charlton. They have the largest lead in the division right now at 8.5 games. They won the opening game of the series last night. And so they seem to be a clinch, for the NL East, Charlton, and hopefully, they'll have a rematch with the Dodgers that they had last year in the playoffs.
Looking forward to that. Chicago Cubs at Milwaukee, Seattle at Houston, Cleveland at the Minnesota Twins, Detroit's at Oakland, and Oakland's really swinging the bat. They're glad that they sent the Angels out of the Coliseum. Colorado at San Diego, San Francisco at Los Angeles. and a matchup game with Oakland and Trent was suspended. We have a lot going on in the sports universe. It's a great weekend. I hope that Serena Williams can get a win, Big C. I'm really happy that all the high school kids can enjoy Friday Night Lights, especially the ones that fly 3,000 miles to play a high school football game. College football is big. Really looking forward to a lot of good games tonight. And then NFL football, please tell me that last night, what we had with Chicago and Green Bay is not a preview of what we're going to have this year in the league. Big C, your thoughts?
The NFL, Charlton, the ratings, the TV numbers were up. But when you think about last night in Rhode Island and in Pennsylvania, Charlton,
yeah,
the NFL numbers were up in Rhode Island last night 38%. In Pennsylvania, they were up 34%. Why? Because both of those states have legalized gambling.
Yeah.
So the NFL numbers will continuously go up, Charlton, because gambling is good for the NFL. It makes more people pay attention to the games so that they can place those instant wagers. They don't have to fly to Vegas anymore, Charlton. They can do it closer to home, and a lot of people can still do it on their phone.
Well, that's very good. We hope that everybody has a great, happy Friday and have lots of fun with family and friends and enjoy lots of sports. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I'm a stern advocate of college football, and we got some great matchups this week. And that's what I'm looking for. Early in the season, we're already shaping the college football playoff landscape with big games on the slate.
Yeah, it's big, and I hope that everybody has a great time. You can always have a great time every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe of the Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, that's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.